All right, so we've heard all of this talk about technology and infrastructure, and so we're saying we're going to get up and get going. Let me acknowledge the presence of the Honorable Member for the Fox Hill constituency in the person of Ms. Chanel Ferguson, who is joining us at this time. Also, I saw in the room, let's acknowledge the presence of the Honorable Travis Robinson, Member of Parliament for Bain and Grantstown, and Parliamentary Secretary in the Office of the Ministry of Tourism. Good to have you. Good to have you. Good to have you. So far back, but I guess you're in good company back there. Okay, I'm going to invite at this time the Administrator Assistant to our... Oh, we want to acknowledge, yes, from the Grand Bahama Port Authority, Chairman Sarah St. George is joining us at this time. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And thank you for your support. We've seen your brother, we've seen Ian, we've seen the crew, we've seen Mr. Newbold, we've seen them all, we've seen Ms. Seymour. They've all been here, so let's give the port a hand. We thank them, and they've been a good sponsor as well. And so we appreciate it.
On the podium.
And it was good to see Mr. Forbes also. I see you in the back there. Good to see you. Good to see you. I'm going to invite Miss Raquel Hart. Winners of the Blue Marlin Business Innovation.
Good afternoon, everyone. I know everybody is still feeling a little luggy from lunch. You enjoyed your lunch? Great. And so we have some very, very exciting news at this time. I know a lot of persons are waiting for this. I wish I had a drum roll. But first, we got desk drum rolls. Excellent. Okay, can I get the following persons, all the persons who participated in the panel? Last name, I see Sebastian's walking in. Bahari, you're walking in. Come right up here, right here with me. These are some of the persons from the panel, the Blue Marlin panel last evening. And for those of you who are hearing this for the first time, the Blue Marlin Business Innovation Challenge is an initiative by the Office of the Prime Minister Grand Bahama that about a few weeks ago, we started receiving executive summaries from business plans on various projects, ideas that our local persons had. And these panel of persons, there are a few more others, but I know some of them perhaps are still at lunch who participated and helped support. Okay, they're coming. I see Laron, I see Dr. Jarvis Salsa. They're coming. Christy is coming as well. I do not see Gravette as yet. Gravette also. And we also want to acknowledge in advance the sponsors of the Blue Marlin Business Challenge. We want to say a special thank you to Grand Bahama Port Authority and also to Alive. We also have Cloud Carib, and we also have Global Sun Integration. We want their representatives to stand right here to my right for those persons from those companies. Okay, we'll start again with that drum roll. Drum roll. And our third place winner, they will be getting business readiness training and $3,000 worth of hosting services courtesy of Cloud Carib, and also a Google Chromebook. And the winner is Mr. Helvin. Well, that's third place winner. Let me get it right. Helvin Cash. Let's hear it for him. That's third place. Okay, so that's a business readiness training, Cloud Carib, $3,000 worth of hosting services. So the representative of Cloud Carib, you can stand here with Mr. Cash. I sure he got, and you know what's so valuable about this, they had an opportunity to pitch to these international companies, and they got a wealth of support and information during this time. And so, photo right here. Cloud Carib, Google, you can stand next to Minister We're waiting for the minister. We're waiting for the minister. So another photo. Okay, we also have, I do apologize. Hold on, don't go, Mr. Cash. Alive have something for you too. Come on, let's hear it for Alive. So there's more surprises in here as well. Thank you, Talia and Alive. Okay, and this is Cloud Carib presenting you with your $3,000 worth of hosting services to help you. And I'm quite certain with your idea, that will go a long way for you. Cloud Carib is all the way here from New Providence. Okay, congratulations, Mr. Cash. Yes. Okay, drum roll again. In second place, they will receive business readiness training courtesy of the Office of the Prime Minister Grand Bahama, $6,000 worth of hosting services courtesy of Cloud Carib, $2,500 cash courtesy of the Office of the Prime Minister Grand Bahama, and a wonderful gift courtesy of Alive. And that winner is Mr. Nolan Dorset and Mr. Sweeting, I think it is the last name. Let's hear it for them. They're underwear up. It took a lot for them to be able to do that and give the pitch. So literally we had Shark Tank last night. Trust me when I tell you we had Shark Tank, Barracuda, Blue Marlin, Poggy, Jack. You had all kind of tank last night. Congratulations, Mr. Dorset and your team. And it's Cloud Creek, you make your presentation. So. Thank you so much. And the biggest drum roll for first place winner, all the way from somewhere here in Grand Bahama Island. I gave it away already. $10,000 cash prize, courtesy of the Office of the Prime Minister. Of course, business readiness training, and courtesy of the Grand Bahama Port Authority. 1 year waiver of business license. There's also $12,000 worth of hosting services, $4,000 worth of project management, courtesy of Global Sun Management, and also a wonderful gift from Alive. And so, drum roll. Let me see if I find her anywhere in here. I can't pronounce the first name, so Miss Hamilton, where are you?
You're here for first place. You're here for first place.
Here she comes. Yes. Come on, Grand Bahama. Let's hear it for her. Port Authority. Okay. Go. Grab a stage. I'll give it to the minister. Hi. Okay, yeah. But let them do this. the Blue Marlin Business Challenge, and we have the Port Authorities coming up next with their presentation. Come on, Port Authority, the whole entourage. Yeah, let's hear it for the Port Authority. Let me squeeze tight. She got plenty big checks to carry home today. Oh, Mr. Rollins, come on, he's going to run, grab his bag. Oh, he's jumping. Oh, yeah. There goes the cheerleader, LaShawn. Cloud Kareem is stepping in there. Don't move, Miss Hamilton. Cloud Kareem is coming to you. Where is James? James Clark, is he here? Oh, come on, James, come take James Clark from Global Sun Integration. He's the one who's giving $4,000. He's coming right now. $4,000 worth of project management. So he is going to be a support to you. Okay, now, before our panelists leave, because Gravette is going to speak on behalf of the panel, you now have to give us a 30-second pitch here to the entire room. Come on, let's hear it for her. Come on, you have to cheer her up. She's getting this kind of impromptu. She isn't expecting this.
Hello, good day. The first thing I would like to do is thank my Lord and Savior because I can't do anything without him. My name is Constantina Hamilton, and I am the president of Proserpina AgTech, where we believe in reforming and reconstructing farming, not only for the Bahamas, but for all the Caribbean and Latin American countries. We don't know where our food is coming from. We don't know what they're doing on their farms, and it's not fair to us. You know the label export only? It means that it's not good enough for their people to eat, but it's good enough for us, and that's not fair. We should all be able to have access to food, affordable access to food. In Grand Bahama, imagine in the next 5 years, we're going to be shipping out 4 to 5 acres. How do we ship out 4 to 5 acres? In 20 and 40-foot trailers where we're going to have portable farming for other farmers. Proserpina AgTech is going to be the first farm franchising model. We don't only just want to produce. We have $1 billion in food debt, which is not necessarily a curse, but an opportunity for farmers as north as Grand Bahama and as south as Inagua to start producing and feeding ourselves. The greatest thing about the technology is that when we have another hurricane like walking through, just how you pack up your stuff, you can pack up the farm. So you can pack up your investment and protect it. So when the hurricane walks on through, you still have your business and at least 90% of your production. The first thing we are taught in primary school is that we are 700 islands and keys and that we make up the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. So it's not only about Grand Bahama manufacturing and producing these items, but it's also about getting all the other islands involved. My system is a little different from the other higher tech systems is because it's designed for people of the high school level, and also people of disabilities can also come to our institution once we get started in the Freeport area to be trained. So it's very important to me that we reach out to the youth and those who are disabled. So Bahamas, grow with me.
Now you see. Now you see why this initiative is so important to my minister and to the office of the Prime Minister. And we have so many of them last night that we had to select from. And so we want to salute all of you who participated last night for an excellent job and a good showing last evening. We had over 22 persons who placed applications, and the pitches we were, it was like, wow, how are we going to do this? But we do have Gravette Brown from Alive who will give some little quick tips. Gravette, we are behind on time, and I'm talking a little bit too much. You got 30 seconds. And so we just want to say a few things to those persons, because this is just the first of the many Blue Marlin challenges to come on behalf of the Office of the Prime Minister, Grand Bahama. So stay tuned. There will be some announcements coming within a couple short weeks. And so stay tuned, get yourselves ready, and be prepared for when we make the next announcement. Gravette.
Okay, so last night, myself and my very esteemed panel, we spent almost 3 hours looking at over 20 applications. It was, even though it was the end of what was a very invigorating day, it was also an invigorating session. I just want to say, before I came to Alive, I just actually moved back to the Bahamas about 2 years ago after working internationally, and I'm an investor. Before Alive, I was a principal investment officer at the International Finance Corporation of the World Bank Group. Just to say, I've seen projects and I've seen deals. I've seen deals in Nigeria, in Senegal, in Haiti, in Brazil, in Belarus, Russia, and the quality of what we saw tonight was impressive. So we shouldn't ever let anybody tell us that we cannot do it. I also want to just spend a bit more of my 30 seconds also congratulating the panel with whom I had the honor to sit with last night. Evaluating projects, and if we really want to see entrepreneurship take off, it is necessary, it is absolutely critical that we have a vibrant investor community. We can't do it without venture capital, angel capital, venture capital, and then eventually private equity, which is what I have most recently been involved in, which is fairly later stage. But for investments like this, we need people who can really evaluate a business proposition, who know what to look for, and who can also give our young entrepreneurs and our older entrepreneurs, because we saw the gamut last night, who can give them real practical advice and guidance. So with that said, I'm just going to distill a few of the lessons learned that we kind of took away from last night to share with the other would-be entrepreneurs in the group and anyone else who's interested in it. Okay, so the first thing, when you're pitching, we all remember from primary school the concept of show and tell. As an investor, I want you to sell me the dream. And in order for you to sell me the dream, I need to touch it, feel it, and see it. So if you have a product, whatever your product is, find some way to show me what it is. It's so much more compelling. Oftentimes, before you've even said the first word, I get it. People who are used to doing this, I can evaluate a deal in under 30 seconds. I can tell whether or not you're somebody I'm going to spend another 1 minute thinking about or not. You make your decisions very quickly. If you have something to show, whether you're a graphic artist, bring your poster. If you're in agriculture, Tina came, she brought her plants. She bought the pipe with the plants. You saw it, you got it, you understood. And the minute she walked in the door, I knew what it was. I said to my colleagues on the panel, I know what this is, I get it. If you have something, bring it, show it, tell it. It means more than any words can say. Know your product. Know what you're selling. Even if you haven't started yet, know everything about it. Most investors, even if they don't know your industry in detail, they know how to ask Pearson questions. So you have to know the answers to all those questions. If you don't know the answers to the questions, then you have to find some way in that 30 seconds to convey that you're going to find the answer or you're going to get there as soon as possible. Have a prototype or a model that you can share, that you can show. Show that you have put some investment yourself into whatever it is you're selling. A lot of people think that, everyone always says access to finance, access to finance. What's most impressive to an investor community is if with whatever $5 or $10 or $100 you have in your pocket, you've managed to create something that someone can say, this is sellable, back to the first point, sell me the dream, show me your product, and that there's a market for. Make that first investment. You have to have skin in the game. Skin in the game is one of the number one things that anybody wants to see. Finally, or rounding out to the final things, back in the 90s or wherever, I think it's 90s, 2000s, probably dating myself, there was a saying, it was called CREAM, cash rules everything around me. Nothing we love more than cash flow. If you have cash flow, if you have an existing business that you are showing that you are investing the returns from your business into your new business, you almost don't have to do that much more. It just shows that I have managed to create a prototype. I had a vision. I can show you my vision. I've created a prototype for that vision, and I've managed to get somebody else to buy it. That means something. It shows that this works. We don't have to do that much guesswork to think, is this saleable or not? So these are just a few tips. The final thing I would say is that the number one rule of thumb I've always had when I'm looking at deals and transactions is I look at the people. Because dreams ideas, everyone can have an idea. What really matters are the people who are executing and who are behind that idea. Who is your team? Who is around you? Who is with you? How are you going to get this done? Who have you brought onto your side? It also shows that somebody else has bought into your idea. So those are just about 5, little tips, things that we saw last night that we experienced. Just want to say it was a great experience with this group of people, seeing all of the entrepreneurs and just having this opportunity. I would make a challenge to the private sector that this is what we have to do more of. This is what we have, at Alive we're investing, a live plug, but we are investing in young entrepreneurs and young technologists. It would be great if we can find some way to even formalize this across sectors, across industries, because this is really what's going to help this whole idea of entrepreneurship, of business creation to take off. That's it.
And in conclusion to that, again, we're looking out again for the Blue Marlin Business Challenge, and also the Port Authority have the Capital Arena as well. So for all the entrepreneurs who are out there, if you're looking for opportunities to access capital, here's the opportunity. So listen out to all the announcements that are coming. Avail yourselves to the various tips that you've been provided. And let me tell you what the value came out of all of this. I can say this. There are several of the panelists here who have already committed to investing in some of these persons already. Their personal investment. And so that is even more valuable to them. And so thank you, panelists. Thank you to those who participated. And see the rest of you at the next Blue Marlin Challenge.
Tina. Constantina, that sounds pronounced? Constantina. Let's congratulate her one more time. How, in 30 seconds, because we're booked for time, but how did you come up with this idea?
I'd like to first give acknowledgement to BAMSI. I'm actually the first original employee of BAMSI. I'd like to thank them for taking a risk on a graduate out of the University of West Indies in the first year. And I came up with the idea of living in Andros, going to Ackland's Crooked Island, and experiencing the boat missing that week. And there's no gas on the island, there's no food on the island, and panicking. So it made me realize that we are different. I was able to travel around the world and see that we're unique. And that shouldn't be a negative thing. We just need to be more creative. And I wanted to help the farmers. I wanted to help Bahamians be able to afford healthy food, because it's not fair seeing a mother, I got to meet a mother of 4, have to choose between the noodles and fresh fruits and vegetables because she has to share between 4.
Thank you. We appreciate you and want to say congratulations to you again. Now, is there a protocol officer, please, quickly? Okay, thank you. You go this way for us, please. There you go. So that proves to us, Ms. Hamilton and others, that the brains of young Bahamian do work. They're innovative. They have an entrepreneurial drive. And all they really need is a little push and help from those of us who are in the position to give them a helping hand. Let's congratulate them all once again. We're now going to hear about developing incubators and accelerators, entrepreneurship and innovation. But before we do that, I recognize that some of you now have new neighbors. So in case you missed it, look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, Grand Bahama needs to get up and get going. Look at somebody else and say, neighbor, Grand Bahama needs to get up and get going. So if you want me to break that down, because we've been saying that all day, all morning, let me break that down. Less talk and more work. Let's just do it now. Because we're talking about some of the things, if we want to be honest with ourselves, both from the government and the port perspective and the private sector and just citizens here in Grand Bahama, some of the stuff we've been talking about for the last 20 plus odd years. So let's see if we can stop talking about some of this stuff now. You know, Solomon said there's nothing new under the sun. So some of the stuff we've been hearing is not new. The problem is we just need to get up and get going. So let's use Nike's marketing, advertising term, slogan. Just do it. Just do it. And when we say just do it, that means the government of the Bahamas, the Grand Bahama Port Authority, the citizens of Grand Bahama, from East End to Grand Bahama, or East End to West End, here in Grand Bahama. Everybody just shout, let's do it. Put your hands together and welcome Dr. Joseph Slouser. I hope it's correct. Let's give him a hand. Jeff, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Bahamas as well, correct?
Yes, first time.
First time.
That was a valiant attempt to pronounce my name.
Yes,
So
what is the actual proper pronunciation?
So it's Schlosser.
Slouser.
Schlosser.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Very much. That's the last time I'll do that. How was your flight?
It was great. Yeah, got in.
So what are you going to talk to us about?
So I'm going to talk about fostering technology innovation with startup accelerator programs.
Okay.
So you'll learn what that means in the first slide.
We hope you'll break it down to the lowest common denominator and then take us up, right?
Of course.
Thank you so much, because I really want to know what it's all about myself. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, thanks everybody. It's an honor to be here. So as I mentioned, the topic of my presentation is on fostering technology innovation with startup accelerator programs. So the first question that we should ask is, well, what actually is an accelerator? So an accelerator is a program that's designed to support startup companies and accelerate their progress that has the following 4 attributes. First of all, it's cohort-based. Typically, there's a group of 5 to 25 companies that all participate in the program at the same time. It's a fixed amount of time. Typically, that term is about 3 to 6 months. It's got a strong focus on mentorship and education components. And then finally, an accelerator program culminates in an investor demo day where the companies in the cohort get together and they pitch to a group of investors to seek additional funding for their startups. So there's other institutions that support early stage startups as well. Examples are incubators and angel investors. I won't go into detail on this slide, but this is just kind of a quick comparison. Incubators typically are a little bit longer term. They're on the duration of years compared to accelerators, which are typically have a duration of months in terms of the time that the companies participate in the program. And then incubators also typically accept companies on a rolling basis, whereas the accelerator program, as I mentioned, has these cohorts where a group of companies comes in and participates in the program at the same time. Angel investors are another important early stage startup support mechanism. So these are typically individuals or groups of individuals who provide funding to early stage startups, but they don't necessarily have a structured program like incubators and accelerators do. Okay, so shown on this slide are some of the top accelerator programs. Most of these are located in Silicon Valley. Most of them are located in the United States, but some of them have presence abroad as well. So I'm an advisor to the Stanford University StartX Accelerator program, and also I had a startup company that went through that program as well. So hopefully I'll be able to provide you a perspective as both someone who's participated on the staff of an accelerator program as well as gone through an accelerator program with my own company. Okay, so just a little bit about the Stanford StartX Accelerator. So this is a nonprofit institution, which, and the main advantage of that is that it takes no equity, or it takes no ownership in the companies that participate. This is different than a lot of the other accelerator programs that you might find in Silicon Valley, where they make a small investment in the companies and typically they take ownership as well. That's usually around 3 to 7% of the stock of a company. So the nonprofit model is great because startups really don't have any reason not to participate in the accelerator program. There's no downside and there's only upside for these companies. And I think that the nonprofit model works particularly well for institutions like the government and also academic institutions. And I was really pleased to hear that the University of the Bahamas is actually thinking about starting their own incubator program as well, which is really exciting. The StartX Accelerator operates across all industries and stages. So we help companies all the way from just an idea stage before they've raised any money, all the way up through later stage companies that have raised multiple rounds of funding and even have hundreds of employees. So it's able to help companies at all different stages of the startup process. Shown at the bottom here are some examples of some of the programs that have gone through the Stanford Accelerator, StartX Accelerator program, just to kind of give you a sense of the diversity of the different products that these companies are working on. So on the left is a company called Boosted, who makes an electric lightweight skateboard. Appfluence is an enterprise software company that helps teams prioritize tasks and work efficiently. Tuzar is a biotechnology company that uses computational power and artificial intelligence in order to enable discoveries of new drugs. And Ruminate is a company that creates a dollhouse kit for children, specifically girls aged 6 to 10, where they actually build their own dollhouse and they use circuits to wire it and light up the dollhouse themselves. So it really encourages young girls' participation and engagement in STEM subjects. Okay, so this slide is going to talk about the core components of the StartX Accelerator program. These are shared by many of the top accelerator programs in Silicon Valley as well. So number one is community. So when you're an entrepreneur, your community is extremely important and your network is really important, both professionally to help your company, but as well as personally as well. It's a really stressful process starting your own company, and having that personal network of people you can trust and talk to is a really important component. So in accelerator programs, since they have that cohort-based structure, this really facilitates building of this community. Because as I mentioned, these companies participate in the program at the same time. It's a short duration, so they're working really hard during the programs to accelerate their companies. Most of the time they're in a shared office space, so they're working closely together, a lot of times nights and weekends. And so you end up building a really nice community with the companies that are participating in your program, and you build a trust between those companies, which really helps to build the community. The next core component is mentorship. So the StartX program sources executives from top technology companies in Silicon Valley, serial entrepreneurs who have started companies multiple times and can help advise the companies that move through the StartX program. And then StartX specifically actually has two aspects of the mentor program. The first is a lead mentor who's paired with one mentor per company. Their role is really to support the entrepreneurs personally in their development as entrepreneurs and founders. And then the other aspect is a board of advisors, which is 3 to 4 mentors that work in the same industry as the company that they're paired with. Their job is to support the company more on a strategic and advisory level. So again, the lead mentor is really a personal mentor to facilitate the development of entrepreneurs, and the board of advisors is helping more with company strategy, sort of like a board of directors would in a later stage company. The next component is customized education. This mostly comes in the form of workshops and invited guest speakers. So examples of types of workshops that StartX puts on are fundraising workshops, recruiting, financing, accounting, all the basic elements that are required to build a business. You can usually find a workshop at StartX going on that will help you kind of help the companies learn and understand about those. And then finally, resources. So there's an office space that's available for free to the StartX companies during their session, lab space that's available to the biotechnology companies. StartX has partnerships for things like legal services, cloud storage, and many more. And then there's also an investment fund with StartX that's affiliated with Stanford University. So actually, the university has a pool of money that they have set aside to contribute to any company that participates in the StartX program that's co-invested along with other investors when those companies raise later rounds of funding. Okay, so I mentioned that I had a company that went through the StartX Accelerator program. The name of that company is Sonatrach Systems. So this was a medical device company that I started based on the research that I was doing during my graduate school. We were admitted into the StartX program in fall 2012. We developed 2 different technology families, which I'll tell you about briefly on the next few slides. And the success is that we were acquired last year in 2016 by a major publicly traded medical device company. Okay, so I'll briefly go over the 2 technology families that my company developed. So the first one has to do with the field of radiation therapy. So to briefly explain that to everyone, see if this laser pointer works. Oh, barely. I'll be the first presenter to use the laser, I think. So you have, in radiation therapy, it's used to treat over 60% of all cancer patients. The way it's set up is you have a patient, you have a patient lying on a table, and you have this linear accelerator. I'll forget about the laser pointer. You have a linear accelerator that rotates 360 degrees around the patient that delivers radiation beams from multiple angles that are directed towards a cancer tumor inside of the patient's body. Now, one of the biggest problems in cancer treatment with radiation therapy is that you can't actually see what you're treating at the time you're treating it. So, said another way, you're sending radiation beams that are invisible towards the patient, delivered with this linear accelerator, and you're trying to hit a target inside of the patient, a tumor, that you also can't see and is often moving around. So, for example, for liver tumors, as the patient breathes, that tumor moves 1 to 2 centimeters every time the person takes a breath. So you can imagine how difficult it is to actually hit the radiation beam precisely at the target, especially when you can't see that target. So we developed a set of technologies to address that problem. In a sense, it's imaging technology that we use to take pictures of the patient and the tumor in real time while the radiation is being delivered. We track the position of that tumor, and then we feed that back to the device that's delivering the radiation. And what that allows us to do is it allows us to deliver more radiation at that moving tumor and to minimize the damage that's done to healthy tissues around the tumor. So we can really get a boost in the efficacy of cancer treatment with this type of technology. Okay, so that was one technology we worked on. The next technology we worked on is in the field of more traditional general surgery. And the problem here is kind of illustrated in the picture that you see on the left. So that's the fact that surgery has become inefficient because human assistants are tasked with holding the instruments, as you can see here. So what ends up happening is you have a surgeon, then you have 2 or 3 people just standing around them, and most of the time they're just holding an instrument in a fixed position, sometimes for hours at a time. And what happens as a result of this is that the surgical area becomes crowded, so the surgeon loses dexterity and it's sometimes difficult for them to operate because there's all these people standing around them. The personnel are costly as well, and even more importantly, those people that are holding the instruments, they're highly trained surgical technicians and nurses that could be utilized to a much greater degree instead of just sitting there holding an instrument for hours at a time. And then another problem is that there's errors that result from human fatigue, from just sitting there and holding those instruments for so long. So you can imagine if you're holding several pounds for several hours, You might move your hand, or the instrument might slip, and when that instrument is inside your body during a surgery, that's got some pretty grave consequences. So the solution that we developed for that is a robotic arm, and you could kind of think of it as a third hand for the surgeon. So the purpose of this arm is it holds instruments in place, and it has a rapid adjustment mechanism where you could just tap a button and you can change the position of the instrument pretty much instantaneously. So here's a video of the very first working prototype we made of this technology. So I'm holding an instrument in my right hand, and when I get it in a particular position, I'm just tapping a button, and that instantly freezes it in space. So you can imagine if you have multiple of these arms that are mounted on the surgical table that are surrounding the surgeon, then you don't have to have all those people crowded around. Those people can be reprioritized to do more important tasks in the surgical room and also the hospital. So this is just a picture of a later stage of the technology, a much later prototype. This is a set of arms that's actually being used to hold instruments during a spine surgery. Okay, so getting back to the StartX accelerator. So my company developed these technologies, so how do we actually benefit from going through the StartX program, and how did that program help us actually move towards commercializing those technologies? So I'll talk about it in the context of those four key components that I mentioned on a previous slide. So first of all, community. As I mentioned, this is a really important aspect. If you think about it as a founder, it's really difficult for you to find a group of people to talk about issues that you're facing with. If your company has employees, you can't really talk to them because you want to give your employees a sense that the company's doing well and they're actually going to get a paycheck the next day. You can't really talk to your investors because you want them to continue to put money into the company even if you're having problems. And the investors are the ones that actually assure that you can pay your employees the next day. So you've got a dilemma, and really the best people to talk with are your fellow founders. So fellow entrepreneurs who have also started companies, who are also going through that process at the same time as you. They really understand your experience, and it's really important to kind of have that support network in place. So that really benefited Sonatrach and me as I was going through the StartX program, particularly because I was the only full-time founder of the company. So I also didn't have co-founders to share those problems with. Mentorship. So this was really important for Sonatrach as well. So I come from a technology background, engineering. I took a few business classes when I was in undergraduate and graduate school, but really my focus was technology. So I didn't really know about the business side of developing and commercializing medical devices. So the StartX program paired me with some really key people, entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley who had worked on the business side of medical devices throughout their careers, and they really helped me in a very rapid fashion get up to speed on how to put together a medical device business model, how to successfully pitch things to investors, and really understand the non-technology side of the medical device business. Another specific example, so on our board of advisors for the Stanford program, we actually had an IP lawyer, meaning a patent lawyer, and he was really instrumental at a critical stage in our company because we were licensing a technology from a university. I had no idea how to do that. I had never done that before. But this lawyer had actually negotiated licenses from that same university with multiple startup companies in the past. So kind of as a free service that came along with him being a mentor in the StartX Accelerator program, he was able to share with me the terms of those sorts of deals, how those were structured in the past, and so it helped me to actually successfully negotiate that really important technology license that we needed at a critical time while we were setting up the company and going through the Startup Accelerator. So contrast that, if you fast forward about 3 years, I ended up paying future patent attorneys over $1,000 an hour to do similar sorts of work, which would have never been affordable at the early stage of the company. So that's why mentorship and accelerator programs are so critical, because they provide those resources to companies where they can't afford to necessarily pay rates for these sorts of professional services. Customized education as well, benefited from a lot of different workshops, some of which I mentioned before as I went through the StartX program to help with my learning process as a founder. And then resources as well. So I started the company right after I finished my school, so it was really nice to not have to go to my garage and work, although we heard that a lot of companies have been successfully started that way. I'd rather not work in my garage, so it was really nice to have an office space to go to. Discounted legal services, I mentioned an example of that before. Also, our corporate lawyer came at a heavily discounted rate, so had to help us set up a lot of those contracts, including the IP licensing contract. And then investor meetings as well. So the accelerator program congregates investors, which I'll talk about a little bit in a future slide. But actually the first angel investor group that invested in our company, we met through the StartX program as part of a series of meetings that they set up for their portfolio companies. So that was really instrumental in helping bring in our first outside investment. Okay, so those are examples of how my company specifically benefited from StartX, a specific accelerator. But interestingly, now there's some emerging evidence, scientific publications that are kind of illustrating how accelerators as an aggregate and how companies benefit as a whole by accelerator programs. So to highlight a few of the studies, it was found that startups that participate in accelerator programs reach key milestones faster. They receive financing faster, and the value of the accelerator programs is driven primarily by the learning experience and not by other sorts of confounding factors, which is really important because, again, key parts of the accelerator programs are the community and the customized education and the mentors. Those are all learning processes for the founders, and this study in particular showed that it was actually those factors that benefited the companies and not just the fact that the best companies were entering the accelerator program in the first place. So the learning really does work. And then finally, which this is something I'll talk about in the last slide, which is these accelerators have a positive impact on the regional ecosystem, the regional startup ecosystem. So there was a really interesting study that was done at MIT a couple of years ago that compared regional areas that were similar in other ways, except one of the regions had an accelerator program and one of the regions didn't. So they did this across multiple areas, and what they found is pretty astounding. So they found that areas that actually had an accelerator program, again, that were similar in other ways to areas that did not have one, had a 100% increase in the number of early stage technology financings that happened in that area. There was an 1,800% increase in the amount of early stage financing that came into companies into that region. And there was about a 100% increase in the number of distinct investors that were investing in startup companies in that region as well. And a large part of the reason why they attract so much more funding is because for VCs, venture capitalists who invest in early stage companies, accelerators serve as both deal sorters and deal aggregators. So they're deal sorters in the sense that investors know that when they go and listen to a pitch from an accelerator program, that company has already been vetted by the accelerator program. So they know that it's already a high quality company that they're talking to before they even hear the pitch from the company. So there's kind of a pre-filter on the companies that participate in accelerator programs because they also have an application process and you have to compete to get into the accelerator program itself. Secondly, deal aggregators. So I mentioned before that part of accelerator programs is this demo day where all the companies in the cohort get together on the same day and give a pitch to a group of investors. This is really valuable because particularly for areas that venture capitalist investors haven't really looked at very closely, having all the companies present on the same day is a really efficient process to allow them to screen companies. So you can contrast that if a VC is trying to evaluate 5 or 10 or 20 companies in an area and there's no accelerator program, they might have to spend several weeks in that area going and visiting these companies and listening to pitches. But on a demo day, each company presents for, say, 10 or 15 minutes, and within a matter of hours, they get to hear 5 or 10 or 20 different pitches. And so it's a very efficient process for them. So they're incentivized to visit that area because, again, they know that there's high quality companies that are pitching and they get to hear those pitches in a condensed amount of time, which is really valuable. And then finally, this study looks specifically at how accelerators create and attract VC investments. But it's also important to note that VC investment isn't the only measure of an entrepreneurial ecosystem. But there have been studies that actually show that VC investment is tightly tied to overall regional development and startup development in the area. Okay, so to summarize what we talked about, startup accelerators are fixed term, typically 3 to 6 months, cohort-based programs where everyone participates. All the companies have the same start date and the end date, and they culminate in an investor demo day. The key driving components of an accelerator program are community, mentorship, education, and resources. And then, as we saw on the previous slide, accelerators are proven to boost entrepreneurial ecosystems in a particular region compared to those regions who do not have an accelerator program. That's all I have. Thank you.
So, Dr. Jeff, we're glad did you not enjoy him? Thank you so much. All the way from Silicon Valley?
Yes. Yeah.
So, when did you get here?
I got here Tuesday night.
Tuesday night.
Yes.
And what do you think about our island so far?
Oh, it's amazing. Everyone's really friendly, and I was very impressed when I got here.
Will you come back?
I'll definitely come back.
Let me ask you that. Very good. Since you've been here, have you tried anything by the name of conch salad or conch fritter or conch on the whole?
I have, yeah. I had some conch rice just at lunch.
Yes, you did. That's right. You certainly did. Do you drink a little bit?
I do on occasion.
Occasion? Okay, so we want you to, perhaps tonight, there's going to be a cross at Port Lucayan. We're going to close out this with a taste of Port Lucayan. We'll have some cultural show, and when you get over there, since you do drink a little bit, when you get over there, tell them you want to try something called gully wash. Okay? All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Jeff.
Thank you.
Okay. Come on, let's give Dr. Jeff a hand. Thank you so much. Yeah, y'all didn't know it. I drink too. Ain't nothing wrong with drinking. Drunkenness is the problem. That's the sin. All right. Why y'all looking at me like I say something wrong? And those who looking at me know they wish they had some gully wash right now. Let it.